Okay, guys, so I wanted to ask how you got involved with Into the Storm and what was it that made you want to work on the project?
Like a lot of things, I sent a self-tape out, which it was a nice vindication of doing those self-tapes, because you do sort of send out hundreds and then eventually someone says, oh, I'd like you to do it. And I just thought it was a great... I think we're all obsessed with the kind of natural disasters, and we all, especially when we're younger, we kind of are interested in these things. But I really liked the human story of it, the idea that people, a family that is struggling to hold itself together, is brought together by this natural disaster and forced to bond and mend themselves through the destruction of this town.
As you say there, you play father and son in the film, and what's the status of the relationship at the beginning of the film, and how does it progress as we move on?
They're a little bit of a fractured family at the beginning. The mother's died quite recently, and the father and son are estranged, and obviously Trey is a little bit more of a comedian, so he's surviving that a little bit better. It's a day in the life of, and that day doesn't start well, and when the storm comes, there's a profound need to find Donnie, because I think Gary suspects that he's driving him away, literally, and that has possibly putting him at risk. So when he does finally find him, and they kind of realise that they've all survived, it's quite a deep emotional moment for father and son.
Yeah. I think we both worked on what we thought the relationships was before, and then when we finally met out in Michigan a week before we started filming, we kind of brought these stories together and talked about why we thought these characters were struggling with in their personal relationships. I remember you saying that you thought, I remember doing it, and you saying that you thought that Donnie was always the problem for Gary, that he was the one who was more worried about, because Trey's a little bit more wild as a young man, and I remember thinking from the stuff I've done, no, you're the problem. That was the kind of so that helped.
Good. Richard, you play high school teacher Gary Morris. Given the nature of your role, did you look to any particular teachers from your own past for inspiration?
Weirdly, I'd been asked that question, and I don't think I did it consciously, but subconsciously there was a teacher in my high school who was, I think he was a humanities teacher, but he was also a PE teacher, and he was, he was kind of physically very capable, and I think that he has certainly kind of come into my subconscious when creating the role. And weirdly enough, I seem to remember him being dressed in pretty much the same gear that we ended up dressing Gary in. But I did speak to a couple of teachers, or one teacher in particular from the Midwest, just to find out about the high school system there and to listen to the accent as well. So.
And the film takes place across what can't be more than about 6 hours, and pretty much in real time. Did you find this limited time period helpful or challenging?
Yeah, the movie's not 6 hours long, just so you know. I really enjoyed it. It was something that attracted me to the work itself, apart from the good script. Was I liked the idea of not being able to plan too much, that these characters are living on a moment-to-moment basis, and whatever's being thrown at them. It's very rare in a story that you don't know how it's going to end, or the characters, are sort of living on that sort of edge of reality, and I was really interested in that.
Yeah, and I think it's a reflection of how people, I imagine, would experience natural disasters just moment to moment, and it makes it all the more immediate, the action.
I gather you did a lot of practical in-camera effects for this movie, so you probably got quite wet, I imagine, throughout. I was wondering, was there any point where you thought, God, I wish they'd just done this with CGI?
Yeah, I think Richard nearly gave up acting at one point in the tunnel. He was done. We had 2 weeks in a storm drain, just being blasted with ice cold water and debris. Sarah put an end to the debris after thinking she thought there was a bit of brick in there. Yeah. She was sure that, and then I think there was.
It's amazing how raw and frayed your nerves become as well when you're asked to go back into that tunnel just one last time. But the thing that kept me going was that I would just look over to the guy that was holding the camera, and the camera team, who were all in sort of wet weather gear. They were kind of experiencing it as well as we were, and having to hold their very, very heavy camera.
Yeah.
And I used to just look at them and go, okay, let's just do it for each other. Let's keep going.
But if you were to start a wind fan anywhere near here, we'd smash the room up. Yeah. Yeah.
And Max, was this your first experience of working on a film of this nature, with a lot of physical and CGI effects?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've been in things where there's been some effects, but it was the first time where there was a lot of, that's where the storm's going to be, and it's going to be a mile wide, and so yeah, that was a new experience for me. And also, as we were saying, the first time I've really worked with that many practical effects as well. I've been kind of soaked and drowned and all the things that happen over the course of the film.
And Richard, which is more grueling to work with? Is it tornadoes or dragons?
Gosh, I think they're on a par with each other. I'd like to see Into the Storm with the dragon inside the tornado, and then that would just be the icing on the cake.
So that's the second one.
The second,
yeah,
Into the Storm, out of the storm.
And finally, guys, there's some pretty impressive scenes and destruction Into the Storm. But what sets it out? What sets it apart from other disaster movies like it?
I think you can sometimes be left a little bit cold by just seeing destruction. So I think what interested all of us in the film was that there is a human story, and a story of the survival of a family and of the town, and the way people pull together under extreme circumstances. And I think that's what sets it apart. I'd like to think anyway.
Yeah, and I think there is a simplicity and a slight innocence to the initial premise of putting together a time capsule whereby people will look back on their lives 25 years from now to see if they've succeeded in what they wished for on the very day when that may all be taken away from them.
Yeah.
Chaps, pleasure to speak with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.